Hello there, this is part 6 of our series of videos looking at sound desks, how sound desks work and what the different sections do. So this video is all about the output fader section. Probably not a very long video because it's not very complicated, but just a couple of things to note about these the faders. Some desks have 6 centimetre long faders, and by that I mean how far the fader travels, how far it moves up and down. This desk has got 10 centimetre faders, and any desk with 10 centimetre or 100 millimetre as often called is more sensitive than the 6 centimetre. They've typically got the same upper and lower limit, but obviously you've got a greater distance between the two, so it can be more sensitive. So on this desk we've got 10 white sliders or faders, and the 10 white ones are for microphone input connections. The blue ones are for stereo channels. So if you listen to the video about the input connections, video 1, it talks more in detail about how the connections work, but basically these blue channels carry a left and a right stereo feed to the main PA, whereas the white channels are a mono channel. If you watch the previous video about how the pan control and the balance works, we'll explain that a bit more in that video. So we've got our faders of the respective sources, so we might have some stage microphones, some platform microphones, we might have some band members or a piano, and the blue ones would typically be for playback sources, so CD player perhaps, or a laptop sound, maybe your phone's plugged into one, that kind of thing. And the balance of all these faders then goes through to the left-right. So the proportion is mixed according to the relative position of each of the faders. And then the left-right, the main control, which on this desk is these red faders on the right-hand side, controls the master volume out of the speakers, out of the PA system. Now, some sound desks have a separate section called subgroups. This one hasn't, and some sound desks have an additional set of switches by each fader, which allows, instead of the sound automatically going through to left right, bigger desks might have a set of switches where you can send it to a subgroup, a subsection of individual extra faders. This desk hasn't got that. If your desk has got that and you're getting in a bit of a muddle about it, give us a call and we'll talk you through how that works. But yes, faders simply mix the proportion of what you want and out of the left-right speaker, left-right volume controls. Now, I'll take this moment to talk about mixing. People often talk or ask us, how do you do a good mix? And at its simplest, I'm talking about a band here. At its simplest, all we want to be able to achieve is to hear each of the instruments or musicians on stage. Now, the tendency is that we turn a given instrument up until we can hear it. I guarantee if that's your approach, you will be turning that individual instrument up too loud, because by the time you can hear it, it is then overpowering other instruments in the mix. What we want to hear is a nice blend of everything. So in the previous video I talked about this PFL button, pre-fade listen. So if you're doing a mix for a band and you've got your mix going, if you've been able to sound check, then that's lovely, and you can set your starting mix. My mix, when I'm mixing sound, I'm always changing it. Don't have to, but I like to listen to what I'm getting off the musicians and then turn it up, or sometimes down, according to what I'm getting. So the way I would do that is, instead of turning the respective channel up, say a violin, instead of turning the violin up on the slider so I can hear it at the PA, I'll listen to it on my headphones by pressing the PFL button, hear it, kind of get a sense of what they're playing, hear what they're playing, and then listen for that in the mix. And once, you'd be surprised how often you might not be able to hear the violin, but once you've listened to them in the mix, you take your headphones off, you can then hear them. So they are loud enough. Whereas if you'd done the previous method where you just turn it up, they end up too loud. and that then means that you can't hear other instruments or the singers. So I mentioned talking about me, I quite often change the mix partway through. Very often with any instrument that might do a solo part, I'll be listening for, and I'll be watching the band as well. So maybe the violin might be doing a harmony, so I'll be listening to that, and then I might just want to lift them a little bit, just to give them a bit of a boost, a bit of a lift in the mix, so just cut through a little bit more. Maybe if a singer's doing a harmony, I might turn them up a bit more. I might turn the other singers down a bit. If my singers are already loud enough, then rather than making anyone any louder, I might just bring the other singers back a little bit. Same with an electric guitar. What if they're doing a riff? I might turn them up. I might pull the rest of the band down a little bit. And acoustic guitar, which is what I play. If I'm strumming, I tend to strum quite hard, and I pity the person doing sound while I'm playing, because if I then go on to finger picking, I'm going to need turning up quite a lot, because, as I say, I strum it quite hard, playing the rhythm. So at that point, if I see someone's strumming and then they go into finger picking as the song changes or what have you, I'll then turn them up. So mixing and the main faders, as a minimum, you can just set them and forget them, kind of thing, or you can actually use your own creativity to create a mix, and you learn over time to lift and pull things back. And if you do work with a band who will sound check for you, then that's brilliant. There's nothing worse than the first song or the first couple of songs being the sound check, especially if you might only have 3 or 4 songs in worship. So always encourage your band to do your sound check if they can. So yeah, that's an overview of faders and how to do a mix.